we are back here talking DREADSTAR with Jaime Jameson and Jim Starlin. I am so excited about this book. I've been following this for over a year and now it's out. How does it feel to almost hold it in real life?
Yeah, we're not letting her touch it just yet. Just to frustrate her.
Yeah.
It's right there. It's so, I mean...
It's so close.
The knowledge that it's here must feel amazing.
The torture of not being able to touch it.
Well, we only got this book a half hour before we showed up for the show.
Wow.
I mean, it just literally FedEx showed up, or UPS rather, showed up, and I looked at it. She was getting ready, so...
The definition of hot off the press, not even held by the inker yet. I love this book. I really love the presentation. I really like the frames you folks chose with the cinematic nature of the book really brings in a modern audience. How conscious was the decision to make it so approachable to DREADSTAR fans and casual comic fans alike?
Well, we didn't have the technology that we do now when we did it before, so trying to keep it as much to the look in the pencils and inks as possible was a goal, but at the same time I wanted to completely explore what we could do with the color, the computer color and all that we didn't have before, and no lettering and new inker. It's old, but it's new at the same time.
Yeah, it feels like either a book we discovered that had been written at the time and now is it brought to modern day, or a modern book looking back at the time, and it kind of feels like both. What was it like inking with that unique style over that color palette? 'Cause this book is very cosmically drugged. Wonderful.
Definitely is. Lots of Kirby crackle. That's fun. It was really interesting to, I mean, everybody's got their own style, and I wanted to try to keep to the original. So I'm still newer in the inking world, so trying my hand at things and learning as I go, it was fun.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'd have so many blue lines, it's not even funny. I'd do it over and over again to find out what I liked. And yeah, there's a lot of spare blue lines that have been fully inked, which is really funny.
I found my favorite set of inks was this character. I don't want to give anything away. There's a character being warped at a point in the book. And the depth of that looked amazing.
That was fun.
How do you wrap your brain around a warping character through different panels?
Okay, the hard part about that was, which way is this twisting? That's all. I had to sit there and stare at it like, I have to make sure I don't screw this up. It's fun though.
It translated, it totally plays, and it's a fun page flip. When you write something like that, when there's a page flip and the action of your drawing goes with it, how does your brain switch between like art and writing mode, between like dialogue and imagery, or is it all one palette in your mind?
I have no idea which sequence you're talking about.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's a very, I think you might have been taking acid at the time.
It feels like it. I felt like I was taking acid at the time.
Seeing
You've
that
done
I
it in the
take acid at
past.
least 3 or 4 times a week, there's a good chance.
I mean, and it shows. It's amazing because you read this book and you get your own flashbacks if you've done that sort of thing, which I'm not condoning. But it is a good, tangible feeling of that. It's about 3/4 of the way in, and there's a character talking to a character that can control themselves, and she's being manipulated through space-time.
You've done it in the past.
Okay.
I'm gonna not show them, but I don't want to give anything away.
You know,
I'm
when you see it,
getting
you're going to be like,
brain
oh, don't.
Yeah. I'm
It's going to have the Homer Simpson voice. Don't.
There was also
In the meantime, we're killing
to
a
be
lot of
louder.
airspace here, so.
So there's also a character moment where a character goes basically omnipresent, both omnipotent, like there's a magical inciting incident. What was the impetus for that character going that direction as far as the storytelling elements?
I wanted to make a love story, an unrequited love story.
It blew my mind.
How did I do that? That just seemed like the right idea at the right time. I don't really think these things out all that greatly. I can talk about it later on and give you a line of nonsense about how I wanted to, expand out into a realm of reality that had never been experienced before. But the thing was, I just thought it looked cool. And so I did that, and, it made it look much more intellectual than it actually is.
And you also didn't tell me that I didn't have to put big circles. So I'm sitting there like, how do I get these that big? They didn't need to be there.
Digital augmenting.
Oh, no, it was actually like, man, I'm going to have to get better with the comp.
Spot spiral, spiral, spiral. But with a visual like that, does that come to your mind visually first or through dialogue first? Do you see that with words or imagery?
I will do the story, and the story brings out the imagery.
Got it.
I think it all out like, ever since I've seen Citizen Kane, I've always thought that the story comes before everything else, and that you can build on the visualizations from what the dynamics are, the dramatics are.
Yeah.
And so this was the most logical place to go with that particular sequence. And everything in the book that takes place.
And then the next escalation of action is this really big cosmic moment of the character that I was speaking to. When you first heard of that character and how it was going to be presented, what was the challenge to make that have depth? And it's literally a character that is all space and time at once. How do you give that depth as an inker?
Well, I mean, because you don't really know what's going on at first, it kind of was tricky because you want to make him all powerful. You want to make him likable, not hateable. Is he the bad guy? Is he the good guy? Is kind of like expression wise, or just, I mean, there's a lot of trying to get into the headspace while inking it. Like, what would I want this person to look like?
Yeah, it totally
The
translates.
character you're talking about also, when we're in the pencil and ink stage, he looks really rather pedestrian. It's not until we get to the color stage that he really starts getting his cosmic grandeur.
Yeah.
And so it must have been kind of tricky for you to say, well, this is a guy who can do this, but he looks kind of mundane.
Well, yeah. Well, no, not really. It's like, how do I keep him going when I don't really know what he is supposed to look like, and like as this almighty powerful thing. So.
And the whole book leads to that moment. So if that image doesn't land, if that splash page doesn't land, it's like, and we're here. So it's really impressive how well it lands. So many pages in. How would you describe the character of DREADSTAR to the more casual comic fan? We're living in this age of movies and Disney Plus and all those things. DREADSTAR is a bit trickier of a pitch. How would you tell someone about him?
He's an anarchist that has no second act.
Love that.
Basically, he is good at breaking things. His history is that he's not very good at keeping things running. That's why you need people like Willow and the supporting characters. But he's the guy who comes in and overthrows governments that are unjust.
Yeah.
That's his whole stick from the beginning. And then he walks away from all the rubble he leaves.
No, there's so many different types of characters that surround him. So I love that he's our eyeline. Our eyeline is an anarchist with his second act. And the characters around him are like a warrior cat race and like, these existential beings. How do you decide what tone to balance comedically with dramatically with that kind of array of an ensemble?
I guess it's when I decide that the story needs to take a breath.
Oh, yeah.
It's more of an instinctual thing than in any kind of intellectual pacing thing. When Teuton, who is in the story, does certain things which you're thinking of right at the moment, it was after this very heavy sequence, and Teuton has to come in and lighten things up.
Yeah.
In a very unsavory.
Gluteus Maximus 7, some of my favorite planet names. There's a lot of really good moments of levity that I think really will bring a broad audience to this book. What do you feel you were able to do in this because it was so fan-driven that you might not have in a more traditional release?
I got to be my own editor. That's very important these days. The editors at the two main comic companies want to just shackle you down to whatever you put on that page for this synopsis.
Right.
You vary it all, they freak out. I like flying by the seat of my pants. The story that starts off with never makes it to the printed page.
Yeah.
It's always modified along the line, and I just find that much easier and much more inventive and creative than just going along the straight line that they would have you do otherwise.
And it translates, because this book reads like nothing else on the shelves, and it's a wonky time. Speaking of wonky times, though, you've worked on American Gods in a completely different capacity. What is the creative transition of your mind between working on set versus working on something you're completely inventing off the page? Like,
Well, I wasn't on set. I was doing the photography for the layouts with
oh, the layouts, amazing.
and Scott Hampton, and I was actually the model for Laura Moon, actually on the cover of the one where the girls look like the Zorias and such. That's all me, and actually it looks like me in there. But I traveled around to House on the Rock and went to all the locations with Scott Hampton, and we did all this photography, and I'd shoot like either he'd model or I'd model. We'd like shoot the actual scene so that he'd have reference and do the layouts. So it was the storytelling part and actually being a part of it and seeing yourself drawn into something that I absolutely loved the book.
Yeah.
So it was really exciting to start with that, and that was what got me actually in my foot in the door and doing anything comic wise. I've always loved comics, but didn't see this happening.
The layouts is raw creativity. That's so exciting. I never thought of photography from that perspective, but you got to see the inception of these ideas become 3D. As a fan of the book, were there any moments that you got like that eureka moment of like, oh, we did that thing, we translated?
Oh yeah. There's a water tower scene where the youngest Zoria is handing the coin, and it's the moon.
Yeah.
And I used the water tower of the building I ran in Brooklyn, and it was freezing, and I'm literally wearing the white dress that you see there. It was so cold, and watching it in the book, I'm like, we did that, and I was so cold I wanted to die, but that picture was so worth it because it translated when actually putting it into art and making this beautiful picture out of it. That was like an aha moment.
That's incredible. So layouts and those moments of pure creativity are my favorite part of comics, because I think comics are the most linear from the creator to the consumer. There's a writer and an artist and an editor, but there's not like an 87 credit list per chunk of, like when you watch a movie, it's like 20 minutes of.
Anything close as a novelist.
Yeah, there's a closed loop. Was there a comic that you worked on that is now being adapted that you really want to see get developed in more? I love the drug culture of this book. Is there anything in that like vein you want to see adapted to film or screen?
Well, we're talking to people about DREADSTAR.
Yeah.
There's nothing solid out there at this point, but there.
Conversations.
These things would take years.
We're in Los Angeles.
Warlock is going to be an interesting one if they go in that direction, which it looks like they are.
Yeah.
Those are the two that I'd be most interested in seeing.
Is there anything you guys are consuming as fans of the medium? Are there any comics or books you'd recommend to people that you're enjoying as people that make their own?
Well, I'm always at Neil Adams' store, and I'm always constantly looking through the new books, and there's been some really interesting stuff. I saw that Harleen book when I came in. I've been trying to get him to read it because I really like that particular Harleen book. There's a lot of good stuff out there. I just don't have the time to actually sit and read, because if I do, I don't stop, and then you won't get pages, and I work for a slave driver.
Yeah, I'm terrible. I've been sort of rediscovering Invincible with the
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and going back and going, I remember reading this at the time, and then we got the collected volume we were looking through. We're going, oh yeah, there's a lot of things that they changed from what it's been really interesting.
And they do such a great job of grabbing from different arcs but making it work to build the ensemble out. Like that first 13 issues is actually like 60 issues, then they cycle back to issue 3. That show did such a great job.
Yeah, and I thought I
good.
remembered the killing of the Justice League earlier on.
Right.
It actually happens in the book.
And they change how ominous the mystery is so well. They change the Omni-Man tone. So my last bit, I have a theory, and it's very important to me, and it's a butterfly effect theory. So there's a certain decapitated dictator shown in this book, and his head is on a pike, and we feel similarly about this individual. I think that Thanos caused our new left-leaning current situation politically, because I think Thanos was invented, the people that started making movies were inspired by that cosmic dread, which led to Pinewood in Georgia, which led to more creatives heading to Georgia, which led to Pinewood and Marvel, all of them ending there, and then actors and writers and creators. I think, as much as Stacey Abrams was a part of it, so was Thanos and making Georgia go blue. So you were directly responsible for our current presidency. So I want to thank you for Thanos leading to Biden in the winning
Thanos is doing it because he got mad because a certain person used him as a...
I couldn't believe the lack of irony seen in that moment.
The lack of understanding of what the scene he was using was. I mean, that's a moment of defeat, and he was using it as a moment of triumph.
I have to wonder, did he actually watch the movie?
I mean, how do you not know the biggest villain? That's not what you choose to represent. So, looking at the current place of politics and looking at how politically driven comics have always been, is there anything you want to do in the medium of comics to try to like usher in? Because I honestly think that comic books help people have a better moral code. Is there anything you'd want to do in that realm to help the next generation see how to make the world better?
I started doing it in the last Thanos book, and the next DREADSTAR book, there's a big element of it in the fact that I think we have to work together more. The divisions that we are running with right now are unworkable. They're not manageable.
Yeah.
And that I think we need to stop hating each other as much and learn some more toleration. Maybe we aren't all the same, but we all have to live in this little mud ball that, hey, needs maintenance.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit less rhetoric and a little bit more intellectual stimulation might be in order.
It is so nice to read multiple syllable words in a comic book. It's so nice to inspire education. I really, really, really enjoyed this. Having not read DREADSTAR in years, it felt like a homecoming. So thank you for bringing this to us. It feels amazing to hold. I'm sorry you can't hold it yet.
I know, he's just going to torture me this whole time.
On camera, the moment happened for
I'm
real.
finally holding the book.
And how does it feel? What's this moment for you?
Oh, because
It feels amazing. A year of COVID and working.
It has some of my favorite splash pages in years, and it has some of my favorite depth, which is thanks to you inking it. And Jim, it's so good to see you drawing again. It is a beautiful book.
Well, thank you. This was fun.
Pick up.
It looks just like Jim.
I mean, right there. Everyone's got their muse, sometimes it's self. Thank you very much for joining us. DREADSTAR Returns is now available. Pick it up. It is a game changer. I can't wait for the next one. Any updates on the next one?
We got 60 pages of it penciled and written. Someone's behind in the ink.
Not that far behind, thank
Yeah.
you.
But she got to get back to work.
Gotta stop reading Harleen and get back to work inking the next book. It's teased at the end.
Actually, the new Fantastic Four is bringing Doom, and I love Doom, so that one's another.
Well, Doom got us here. So frankly, it sounds like Doom. It's Thanos, Biden, Doom, you inking this. It's all full circle. Thank you very much, folks. We'll see you next time.